Hey everybody, welcome back to Dunrovin Ranch in lovely Lola, Montana. I am your ranch manager, Kelly, and this is Boots on the Ground, the broadcast during which I show you something about Dunrovin that you can't see from your cameras. Again, I have a co-host today, Crow. He's especially interested in today's program because we are going to talk about hay, which is his second favorite thing in the world. So this was a request from James Wassam to learn about what a flake is. And I realized that things that I don't even think about are things that people are curious about. So we are in our hay barn, and I'll show you what a bale is. I'll talk to you about a flake of hay. I will show you the different kinds of hay we have, and talk a little bit about the differences. And I will show you how this old lady gets a 90-pound bale of hay into our hay cart. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is a bale. So this is a bale of hay. B-A-L-E. And bales are not standard. Different sizes and shapes. These bales are average 90 pounds. Some bales are 110, some bales are 70. Hey G3! Some bales are 70. You have round bales, which are 1,000 or so, and huge. So it really depends on the baler, the machine that's baling your hay, and the farmer, and what it's going to be used for. The huge round bales often feed cattle. Also, you can put a big, huge round bale into what's called a round bale feeder, and it keeps it more or less corralled, and horses can free feed on it all winter. They have feeders that hold a round bale, and it has a top on it so the weather doesn't get to it. So these are the bales that we get. I really like this hay. This is about 90. It will kill you if it falls off the top and hits you. It can kill you. And these particular bales have between 15 and 18 flakes. Now, I'll be right back. These flakes, when you cut open a bale, it's baled pretty tightly. You cut the string and it pops open, and it pops out into sections called flakes. Now again, different bales have different number of flakes. So this is a flake. Now this is a flake of this particular kind of hay. The hay we have in here is a grass mix. It is Kentucky bluegrass, some timothy, some orchard. I think there's even some clover in it. It's a mix of grasses. Now, other hay you can get in the area is alfalfa, or an alfalfa grass mix. You can get alfalfa orchard. It depends what the farmer wants to plant. We don't have any alfalfa in this barn right now. The hay on the school land is an alfalfa grass mix. Now, people either love or hate alfalfa. It has a good or a bad reputation. Hi, Arrow. Thanks for joining us today. Alfalfa is higher in calcium. It's also higher in sugars. I believe it's slightly higher in protein. For instance, remember Doc? He couldn't have sugar, but he needed the protein and calcium from the alfalfa, so he was supped with other things. Horse people can get really insane. Not me, but horse people can get really insane about what they feed their horses. And yes, I'm insane about what I feed the horses. I love this hay. I will talk to you a little bit about the different textures of even one load of hay. In California, we fed alfalfa hay and oat hay. Two different bales, a bale of alfalfa and a bale of oat, and I'd mix it. Since I left California, no one's even heard of oat hay. Colorado, Washington, here, no one knows what I'm talking about. There is Bermuda grass hay, which is popular in some parts of the country. It really all depends on where you are. If your horse is insulin resistant or has Cushing's, dogs get Cushing's too, they cannot have alfalfa, for example. Alfalfa is good for putting weight on. It's good for energy. But again, you really have to balance what your horse's or equine nutritional needs are. This hay is pretty much good for everyone here, especially the littles. The reason the littles can't have grass or shouldn't have grass is because of the sugar content. Therefore, you wouldn't want to feed them alfalfa. So I'm going to show you, you won't be able to see close up, but you can trust me. I'll be right back. There's some bales, and the hay is actually so tender and so fine, it's almost like hair compared to some other of the same batch that I refer to as pretty stemmy. I don't think you'll be able to see, but you can trust me that this is coarse. This is fine. And this is from the same field. This particular stuff was even cut at the same time. Now, senior horses, senior littles, and the donkeys sometimes have a real hard time chewing the coarser hay. As a horse gets older, their teeth wear down, and they just can't chew it. So when I find a real fine bale, I put it aside for Bonnie and Clyde. Clyde's doing pretty good, but Bonnie really can't eat anything but the fine stuff. Something else we do for Bonnie is, you've seen me with this bucket, and we have a designated manure fork. What we do, this metal handle red manure fork is designated for gathering up. I won't do it too hard because it's an obnoxious sound. But this is what we do. We get up the little stuff, and we scoop it up, and it goes in here. And that's what Bonnie and Clyde get. If we have an abundance of small stuff that falls out, then I go ahead and give it to the donkeys too. And sometimes the captains, it's nice to spread around. It spreads well, they can nibble a lot. The reason we don't sweep this up is there's dust and a little bit of rock, some rock sometimes, and maybe even some mold spores. It just happens. So I don't want all that dust in their hay. So we get up as much as we can, and then we sweep the rest out. Full disclosure is I left the hay barn a mess and my hay cart empty for this broadcast so I could show you all this, but G3 cleaned the hay barn this morning. So when I came out here, there was a bale in my cart, and this was all swept up. So full disclosure, I dumped this out so I could show you how we do that. So this is, when you see us with this, it's the stuff that falls out from the hay. It's also the stuff that is underneath our pallets. The hay is stacked on pallets, and that is to enable air circulation to get underneath. What was I going to show you? I'm going to show you how you can weigh hay. I brought over here, I have a hay bag. This is actually Doc's. Remember Doc got hay 24/7? I got this bag on eBay 10 years ago. It's made out of a hockey net, and I love it. It has lasted me all this time, and it holds one 70-pound bale. So if you had a 70-pound bale, you could put it right in there, cut the strings. Otherwise, you can open a bale and stuff it full. I'm going to use it to weigh different flakes. So I don't know that the scale is sensitive enough to pick up the difference, but I can certainly feel it when I pick up a flake. So horses typically eat 20% of their body weight in forage, and that means that you don't include their supplements in that. So if you figure, you know, we all figure a 1,000-pound horse more or less. If your horse is more or less, you have to deal with that. And a 90-pound bale. So each full-size horse here gets 4 flakes of hay a day. So that means that we make the calculation that a flake is 5 pounds. If we're feeding a grass bale, I know it's not a 5-pound, it doesn't have a 5-pound flake. So this is a basic scale that they were in the feed room. So I am going to, it's zeroed out, it's in pounds. So I'm not all concerned about what weighs 5 pounds, but I'm concerned in finding the difference. This is the fine grass hay. It's 1 flake. It's 3 pounds. Now, if we had one of the flakes from the other side, I bet it would be over 5. So I'm going to dump this in here. But we do have some flakes that are much coarser. It makes me very happy when I find hay that Bonnie will eat. So let me find a coarser one. I know I'm out of camera, but some of these are just heavy, heavy. Hey, Crow, welcome. I'll also digress quickly and show you what Crow gets. Crow gets, I know, you love it. I've started getting him used to compressed Timothy hay for a couple reasons. Because when we're on our road trip, he's going to have a Timothy pellet diet. Oh, boy, he's licking and chewing. And also I'll be taking this with me. Compressed hay takes up a lot less room. So besides, so he just gets 2 flakes of our hay a day. And then he gets 2 flakes, and I broke this up, 2 flakes of this. Look at this stuff. Small pieces, very soft. He loves it. I know, and I can't give it to you right this second. So I supplement him with that. Mostly for the trip, but also I know that a variety of forage is really good. His feet, he came with really bad cracks, and I know, buddy. And so I want to be sure his minerals are properly balanced so he can heal that. Let me weigh the other. I gotta find a bit, another flake for you. And this is a little heavier. This is not as stemmy as I'd like to show you, but I can just tell it's heavier. When you do this long enough, you know what a flake is. I'm going to say this is closer to what we're going to call a flake, which is 5 pounds, than the other one. And I know I'm sniffing. I'm sorry. It's really cold. Oh, I forgot to tell you the temperature. It's a balmy 30. So this one is a little heavier, but not much. And I know I haven't taken the bag into consideration. And now Kelly has to find. This is what I do all day, by the way. Is look for stuff. Not all day. So this one is pretty close to 5. It's 4.5. So for most horses, it doesn't matter. Some horses, it matters a lot. And people pay a lot of attention to their horses' needs. Crow is overweight. He doesn't eat much at all. And part of what he just needs is exercise. Here's some fine stuff that fell out. It's almost like hair. No, I'm not going to do that. I said I was not going to spoil, I'm not going to turn Crow into Doc. So there you go. It's hard. It's hard not to treat them not like horses. One more thing I was going to show you. I'm going to walk off camera for 1 sec and show you what we call ropes. Also, by the way, this feed room or the grain room does not open out the other side where Crow was trying to make a viral video this morning. There's a wall. And actually it's to the right. To the right here is the shavings bin. And that doesn't have shavings in it now. We've kind of used it for a little bit of overflow storage. So we call these ropes. I find these in Bonnie and Clyde's stall. They're chewed up hay. Now, when horses chew, they don't chew it and just swallow it. They grind it up, and then with their tongue, they spiral it in their mouth as they chew it. So a horse who cannot properly chew their food, they'll grind it up, and if they can't swirl it around because it's too tough or they can't get it into small enough pieces, they spit it out. And we find it on the ground and we call it ropes. This is a rope can be something like this long, and you find them, you're like, uh-oh, my horse needs his teeth done. Now these I imagine are from Bonnie. Sometimes I find them in the donkeys too. Now, the reason again that we feed Bonnie the stuff, the small pieces that fall out and the softer hay, is because she cannot grind the chewy, the coarse stuff. If you look out, if you notice next time you're manning the ranch camera, unless the donkey, there's still some out there. When I spread the hay for Bonnie and Clyde, they leave the longer, coarser pieces. So Bonnie, if she wasn't 30, I would say, she needs to get her teeth floated and balanced. But because she's 30, I think that she leaves these ropes because her teeth have worn down so much from her age, and that's totally normal. Crow has terrible teeth, and but he seems to eat all this hay, every little bit. But he has trouble with a tiny piece of carrot, don't you? So he's getting his, by the way, he's getting his teeth done Friday. And if it's okay with the vet, I will mic up and narrate. And I'm just curious to see, I had Ben's teeth done and they were kind of bad. I'm going to wait and see. I can't wait to see what his deal is. Maybe that's part of why you're so cranky. That's not it. He's just cranky. Okay. So, any questions or comments, anyone, on why, well, not why I'm so neurotic about this. It's because I'm a horse person. But does anyone have any questions on, One thing is it's widely accepted that horses need to have hay going through them, hay in their forage in their stomach, with no longer than 5 hours with an empty stomach. And because of the digestive juices, they can develop ulcers. On my feeding days, I try, if I'm going to be here, I split the breakfast between breakfast and lunch, because I want to make sure that Crow has hay going in his belly. And since I'm going to be out here doing Crow, I do everyone else. The herd in the riparian, they get a full 10 pounds each of breakfast, and it lasts them till pretty close to dinner time. The winter pasture horses get their big meal, all 20 pounds once, and then they also can nibble and walk around, so their stomach's not empty. But people will say no longer than 5 hours. Are there any questions before I show you how I get a bale? So I don't know if you can see all the way in here to camera right, but I have a couple of different ways of doing this. One, just a lot of and getting it in, getting the bale in, and then there is just careful planning on my part. Now, one of my most triumphant moments happened here at Dunrovin. It was sometime last year. I think it was even last winter. And I had to get it was around back there. And I was up top, and I was going to push a bale of hay into the cart, and I kid you not, it went end over end. Its short end landed on the handle. It flipped into the cart, and the cart was upright. And I thought, man, horse people would watch that billions of times. It was a once-in-a-lifetime happening. And so now you know what gets a horse person really excited and happy. So I'm looking over here, I'm like, wow, look at this bale, it's right here. This life keeps me out of trouble, though. Okay, so you're going to have to see my back. I'm going to grab a string. Ugh. Look at that. God, that makes me happy. I've done this quite a few times. Tell you what, I don't know why people go to the gym. Come to me. So, that was a heavy one. 90-pound bale, right? And the 10 horses in the riparian need, 10 pounds each? So that pretty much covers everybody. I will get probably another 3 or 4 flakes, because the bales average 90. Some were a little less. So I'm going to get 3 flakes, and these are light. I bet you this is 2 pounds. I know. So that's going to be, I'm going to get one more. So that is dinner for the riparian. All good to go. Bonnie and Clyde's tub is full. And by the way, this is not much. Look at this. Loose hay weighs nothing. So James has asked how I judge loose hay. No, I just know that this thing full and packed could be 5 pounds. It really, watch when I kick a flake of hay around, you can see how much is actually out there. I just can kind of eyeball it and see. And also how long it takes them to eat it. But no, there's no real rule of thumb. Again, you know, a coarse bale coarse bale versus a fine bale will spread out differently. I mean, this weighs nothing, and a handful of the coarser stuff would weigh more. It's just years and years of experience, actually. What else? Oh, here you go. I don't know if you can see camera right, the haystack. I'll show you how we deal with that. So it's not quite that way now. So what you want to do is when you're taking this, start taking the hay down from the top, you want to make sure you have a ladder of hay so you can get to the top. Some people don't think about that because they haven't done this very much, and they'll take, one whole row down, and then you can't get up there. Okay, Arrow, get out. So this is a broken one. I might fall. So I climbed up, and this is what you do. You make sure there's nothing down there that can break. And you just pull it down. It's kind of fun. It's kind of like, when you go to the dump or something and you throw stuff out of the back of your truck, you find the string. So there you go. There's like, I don't know what, couple days worth of hay, 3 days. And you always leave yourself a ladder. There you go. And if you really want to, then if you want, you can neaten it up. But there you go. I've left myself a way up. And Inu loves that, because when I'm out here, Inu's in there all the time. One bale fell on her. I mean, not fell on her, but fell off when she was on top of it, and that hurt her leg a little bit, but she's okay now. Sometimes you find interesting things in the hay, like flat, dead rodents. Not very often, but once in a while, a little rodent gets caught in there, a little mouse. In Washington, we used to get voles. There were lots of voles in our hay. That's all I have as far as hay goes. There's first cutting, second cutting. Sometimes you can get a third cutting out. The nutrition varies, and it's different. I believe that I knew in Washington our first cutting was higher in sugar. The first cutting will often have seed tops in it. For the third cutting doesn't have as much because it's struggling at the end of the growing season. Some people say, "Oh, I'll only use first cutting." Some people say, "I'll only use second cutting." Boy, it just really depends. I actually don't care too much, as long as it's not grungy and weedy and too dusty. Now, here's something. You can do hay analysis. And you can take a hay sample and mail it in, and they'll come back with a nutritional analysis for you. The thing with that, I'm driving him nuts. Am I driving you nuts, silly boy? So when you take a hay sample, you can't just take some hay and send it in and expect that to tell you what your hay is. You have to take a sample from various places in various bales, and you still might not even have the most accurate. Oh, look at my guys. Look at that. You still might not have a completely accurate assessment, but you'll have an idea. You can, if your horse has really, really, really important nutritional needs, you would want to do that. Let me see. So different. Yeah, Wassam has asked about the hay being bleached out. Not enough to worry about. Not enough to worry about. You'll see sometimes you'll get your hay unloaded and some of it will have a yellow side, And that's just the way it was stacked. But no, not enough to worry about. It's bleached out. I would imagine it's mostly water that comes out. Some people think something's wrong with it, but no, oh, no, not really. So Awesome has good questions. Does anyone else have questions for me? What I'll be feeding him on the road is, you're so cute, is mostly a pellet diet. I will take as many of these as I can. I could give him an alfalfa mix, but you know, I am so paranoid. I like alfalfa, but my experience with Doc was so... let me just say I learned a lot. You know, he was on grass and high fat, high sugar feed, trying to keep weight on him for years, and it turned out to not be a good thing, so I'm a little gun shy. I was looking for a weight on this. They don't have it by weight, but so a bag this size corresponds to a bale. So this size is a full bale of hay. This would be Timothy hay, Timothy grass. Hi Stanley, thank you, love your products. So clearly I can put a bunch of this somewhere in the truck or trailer for the trip. He takes, if we talk about, again, 4 or 5 pound flakes a day. And I should actually count this and see how many flakes are in this, because I don't. He will need 2 of those. So he'll need, what, a bale every 4.5 days. So I probably won't need more than 10 of these for the trip. I'll also take pellets in case I'm not allowed to feed this. It makes a mess, and some of it's not weed free, some brands, and sometimes you can't take noxious weed seeds into state parks. Buying local hay is different everywhere. So if you're going to buy local, farmers plant it for the area, what works good and what suits the horses. Selenium content is really important. Here, there's plenty of selenium in the soil, and therefore in the feed. I think, or is it the other way around? In Western Washington, you never, ever, 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 maybe it's the other way around, you never want to supplement selenium because it's so high, or it's vice versa, I forget. So when you're supplementing your horse with minerals, you really need to look and see what they're getting. Selenium too much or too little can be tragic. I just read something, I belong to a Facebook group called Old Cowgirls Never Die, and it's wonderful. I learn a lot, and the trials and tribulations of life, and then getting on a horse really solves everything, at least the time you're with your horse. Anyway, one woman had a horse that had a terrible tripping problem, and they couldn't figure it out. They talked to farriers and vets, and they couldn't figure it out. And then they went to one vet who said supplement with selenium. And they did, and the horse stopped tripping. So, anyway, yes, back to the question, local. I would say local's better. If you're out of hay, get it wherever. But it's better because that's what the horse is used to. Horses, if a horse grows up in one location, that's what their body is used to. And it is tricky, Wassam. Yeah, because if I'd want to take my own hay, my own feed, if at all possible, but you might have to supplement on the way. You don't want to just get to some place and change it up on them really fast. Oh my goodness. You know, a few weeks of slightly different nutrition isn't going to matter. What does matter is what he is able to digest safely. Now, in the hindgut is an area called the cecum. The CECUM. In the cecum are certain enzymes and bacteria that have developed to digest certain foods. So it takes about 3 days for bacteria to change in the cecum. So if I all of a sudden gave him hay from California, or overnight changed his supplements, or if he got pellets, changed his pellets overnight, he could get really sick. He could easily colic because he's not set up to digest that stuff, and it would sit there and it would cause an impaction or a stomach ache. Colic is just a stomach ache. It's how they manage the stomach ache that causes the problem. So if he got a stomach ache because I all of a sudden changed his diet, that could be really dangerous. If I see that something's not working out, if I'm a week out from someplace and I think I'm low on feed, I will grab something and then give him half and half or a little bit at a time just to change him over. When I added Timothy, the compressed Timothy, to his diet, I started with a handful, and over like 4 or 5 days I worked it up to a full flake. One thing you always do when you're traveling, especially for a whole month, is I'm going to have a list of all the feed stores, their hours. I'm going to have a list of local vets and their hours. I'm compiling a list of campgrounds. I'm compiling a list of old cowgirls who never die in the areas I'm going to. And because it's a really helpful group. So I will be fully covered. It's not... I don't know, a month, well, it's very me to just my first time ever doing this to be gone a whole month. I don't think it's going to be a big deal with Crow, although we'll see because we're working on our partnership, which is why I walk him so much, by the way. I told Melissa this morning, he doesn't mind bags, but he doesn't like big rocks or big stumps, which is challenging for a trail horse, not to like rocks or stumps. But he trusts me very much. When he's nervous, he touches me with his nose, which is, I think, good. Gently, not nudging. This is an interesting thing as well. In the old cowgirl group on Sunday, I met someone who lives on 800 acres outside of Austin. And I invited her to ride with me at Big Bend. And it's 8 hours away, and she wasn't sure she could do it, but she said, "Why don't you come stay with me?" My husband and I just moved onto our ranch. They have a small cabin on 800 acres that they've taken in conservancy and promised not to develop. I don't quite know the situation, but she invited us to come and stay. She has a guest room in the tack room, and she doesn't have anyone to ride with, believe it or not. So that's really exciting. I'm so open that I could stay there, a long time. I also connected with someone, believe it or not. I was friended by someone, and I didn't know who it was. But I looked her up, and she is friends with my 3 oldest friends in the world. They're all in Los Angeles right now. And I thought, well, she's someone who's in the business and, just knows my friends in show business. And so I went ahead and friended her, and we started chatting. And she's got minis and donkeys. And guess what? She lives in Joshua Tree, which is my first stop, my first big stop. And she left me a couple of messages. We're going to talk today. And she says, I have an idea for where you can stay. So I might actually have real lodging for us in Joshua Tree. Isn't that incredible? So I was telling Wassam that my first thought on both these connections is, wow, I get a hot bath at least two of those stops. And Crow will actually have a stall and probably good company. I think that's all I've got for you folks today on hay. Next week I was going to do mucking. I think it'll all be frozen. So what I actually might do is, or maybe Gabby can do a demo. Maybe she can get some fake manure, and Gabby can actually show you how to muck. I think homework's. I think we need to start delegating these boots on the ground. Okay, I'm on it. I'm thinking about it. Anyway, it might be too cold or snowy next week to do mucking. So actually, Wassam, maybe we can pre-record a boots on the ground. We can experiment with that. Actually, maybe I can. Maybe we can kind of bank a bunch of them, and then we can broadcast them. That's a thought, isn't it? I do know everyone from Wassam and G3 that the river cam is underway. It's a huge engineering feat, by the way, and they are the guys for the job. I don't know if I put on chat. G3 is called G3 because he was the third James in his unit in the Marines. And everyone called him G3. I don't know why not J3. I didn't ask. But it works for me. That's all I can say. Horses, I don't have a walkabout today. Thursday, the herd is getting their shoes pulled. I will work again with loading Augie. I think I would like to do some groundwork with Mystery during the training portion. I will probably work on loading Crow, if not during that segment, then before or after. I'm not sure Brandon was going to get back to me on whether he's available. So G3 wants to help, so probably Friday morning we'll use the 6-horse and haul the herd over. And be sure to watch that. I don't think, I might do a few, half one day and half the other. I do think Lonza will take fine care of Augie, but we probably shouldn't dump 10 horses in there at one time, although I know it's going to be fine. What else? Oh, Doc. Crow gets his teeth done on Friday, I said, which is, I'm dying to know the situation with his mouth. Saturday, Sunday. Sunday is Fur and Feathers with our very own Hey Paula Goldberg. I know that she has a cat. I won't give anything away. No. The 18th. No. The 18th is not. This Sunday is not Fur and Feathers. This Sunday is Criminal Trials. The 25th is Paula. And Paula is our accountant and payroll person, so we're always nice to Paula. If we're not nice to Paula, we don't get paid. Not true. We can be as mean to Paula as we want, and we still get a paycheck. Isn't that great? That's all I have for you, folks. If there's no more questions or comments, if you want any information on hey Kelly, we wish we had a handout that talked to us about different hay's nutritional contents, or hey Kelly, why don't you have exact numbers for things? I will get those exact numbers, and I will answer your questions in my chat. So be sure they're there. That is all I've got for you, folks. I'm just hanging out, waiting to see if you have any comments. I gave Crow a little lunch. Oh, let's try this. So I thought that you've seen me point to Crow's stall and he goes in. Well, it's not without protest. The reason I'm doing that is because he's really, I'm going to say aggressive. He's aggressive around food. And that's not okay. It could be for many reasons. I know that in a herd he's low man on the totem pole, so maybe he's afraid I'm going to move him off his food. Maybe he, at some point in his life, didn't get enough food. but he's not allowed to turn his rump to me and give me attitude and expect me to feed him. I did say I went in, I feed him his hay separately. I feed him his grass mix, and then I'll feed everyone else, and I'll give him his Timothy, and then I'll do something else, and then I take him his supplements. He gets a mineral supplement plus something for his feet. And he gave me a little kick. He wasn't intending to hit me, because if they want to, they will. And that was not okay. So I put him in the round pen, and he did it, but he gave me attitude in the round pen. So that's very, very, very disrespectful. So what I do is I point, and I call it sending. I send him into his stall. And I don't think he'll be able to see it all, but this is what he has to do. I send him. He has to walk in. He has to walk completely past his feeder. He has to turn around, and he has to disengage his hind end, which is what we do in the round pen, right? When you want to turn a horse, they have to turn their front end towards you and disengage their hind end. So that's what he has to do. And 8 out of 10 times he tries to cheat. 8 out of 10 times he comes in, he gets right to his feeder, and he does this. No. So I point again, he throws his ears back, and I say, do it, and then he'll do it. So this is something we really have to get through, because that's hugely disrespectful. And he's not doing it willingly. He's doing it under protest. So it's not just the hay, it's, do we have time for me to weigh this? I'll spend almost an hour, no. This is, I'm going to guess, 6 pounds, 6.35 pounds. So this goes to, I'm going to walk over to his stall, see if he'll come out so I can send him back. You know, this unwillingness, come here, buddy. This unwillingness to say, yes, ma'am, is not okay. This is going to cause problems all over the place. There we go. So I'm going to be up there next to his stall. All right, there you go. Let's go. In. Look at the ears. Look at the attitude. Go. He's much better. So I'm going to walk in. His ears are back. He's trying to cheat. Oh, good boy. Good boy. So he stopped for a second, and then he made a conscious decision to go behind the feeder and disengage his hind end. His ears are still back, but his eyes aren't quite so angry at me or whatever that is. So that is why I send him in. And you can watch, somebody will say no, and I'll go yep, and he'll go no, and I'll say yes. So why I got on him briefly yesterday was to make him walk past the gate, because he doesn't want to walk past the gate. And I say yes, and he says no, and I say yes, and he says no, and he says no, and I say, well, yeah, and he goes, fine. So it's much less of an argument. He doesn't try that hard, but we'll see. We'll see about his attitude. Anyway, okay, I'm going to go ahead and feed, give the littles a little bit of lunch, because we're a little late. And then we'll see about the day. I do have a horse emergency class tonight in Missoula, and I'll update you on that at some point. Thanks a lot for joining me. Thanks for sticking with me for nearly an hour. And again, put any questions in my chat, and I will talk to you all later. Bye-bye.